The barista who brewed a little too well. Let me be clear from the start. I did not sign up for magic. I signed up for a part-time job pulling espresso shots at a cafe called The Daily Grind, tucked between a nail salon and a bank in the middle of downtown Verhaven, because rent was due, and my degree in comparative literature had proven approximately as useful as a chocolate teapot. My name is Priya Malhotra. I'm 26, and until 3 weeks ago, the most extraordinary thing about me was that I could recite the entire coffee menu backward while half asleep. Then old Mr. Nkemelu, the owner, retired to Portugal and left me the shop, the keys, and, as I would soon discover, a brass espresso machine that was, and I cannot stress this enough, absolutely haunted. "Cursed," said the machine's previous operator, a woman named Beatrice, who cornered me on my second day as owner. She had the wild-eyed look of someone who had seen things. Not cursed exactly. Enchanted. There's a difference. Cursed things want to ruin you. This thing just wants attention. "It's a La Pavoni from 1961, I said. "It wants descaling." Beatrice grabbed my wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for a woman who looked like a stiff breeze could knock her into next week. "Whatever you brew in it," she whispered, "comes true. Be careful what you put your feelings into." Then she left, and I assumed she was one of those people who'd had too much cold brew and lost the thread of reality. Verhaven is a big city. We get all kinds. I did not think about it again until Thursday. Thursday morning, the cafe was packed. Verhaven mornings are a special kind of chaos, a river of commuters in wool coats, all of them convinced their coffee order is a matter of national security. The line stretched to the door. My one other employee, a 19-year-old named Toby, who communicated primarily in shrugs, had called in sick, which meant it was just me, the register, and the haunted espresso machine I still didn't believe in. A man in a very expensive suit reached the front of the line. He had the aggressive impatience of someone who had never once been told no. "Large Americano," he said, not looking up from his phone. "And make it fast. I have a merger." I was tired. I was cranky. And as I pulled his shot, I thought, with real venom, "I hope your merger falls apart, you rude little man." The espresso hissed. The brass machine gave a peculiar shudder, and for just a moment the steam curled into a shape that looked unsettlingly like a tiny thundercloud. I blinked. It was gone. I handed him the cup. He left without saying thank you. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed with a news alert. "Breaking massive corporate merger. Collapses at last minute. CEO baffled." The photo showed a man in a very expensive suit, holding a paper cup with our logo on it, looking like the universe had personally betrayed him. I told myself it was a coincidence. The universe, it turned out, had a sense of humor, and it was about to test my capacity for denial. I ran the experiment because I am a rational person, and rational people run experiments. Also, because I'm nosy. Friday, a regular came in. Dolores, a retired school teacher who ordered the same cappuccino every day and always looked a little lonely. As I steamed her milk, I thought, quite deliberately, "I hope Dolores has a wonderful day. I hope something lovely happens to her." The machine hummed warmly, almost affectionately. The foam I poured formed a perfect heart without me trying. Dolores came back the next morning glowing like a light bulb. "Priya, you will not believe it. My grandson called out of the blue. We hadn't spoken in 2 years, and he's coming to visit. And then I found $40 in an old coat. That's wonderful, I said, my mouth dry. It's the strangest thing, she said. It felt like the whole day was just on my side. I nodded and smiled, and internally began to scream. Here is the thing about discovering you have magic powers. It is not, as the movies suggest, immediately awesome. It is mostly terrifying, because you realize how many times a day you have petty, uncharitable thoughts about strangers. I started keeping a list, taped to the underside of the counter where customers couldn't see it. It read, Things to do while brewing. 1. Think nice thoughts. 2. Do not think about ex-boyfriend Marcus. 3. Absolutely do not wish anything on the guy who parks in the loading zone. 4. Nice thoughts only. It went well for approximately 4 days. The problem was a woman named Fenwick. Cassandra Fenwick owned the boutique real estate firm across the street, and she had decided, for reasons that remain mysterious, that my little cafe was an eyesore lowering the property value of the block. She wanted to buy the building and turn it into what she called a curated retail experience, which, as far as I could tell, meant selling $300 candles that smelled like ambition. She came in every day, not to buy coffee, but to remind me she existed. You know, she said, tapping her nails on my counter, I'll be putting in an offer to the landlord soon. This whole block is being reimagined. You should really consider your options while they're still generous. She smiled the way a shark smiles at a smaller, less confident shark. This place has such rustic charm. Shame it can't survive on charm alone. I gripped the portafilter so hard my knuckles went white. I did not brew her anything. She didn't order coffee. She only ordered menace. But that night, alone in the shop, I thought about her, and I thought about Mr. Nkemelu, who had run this place for 30 years, who had let me eat day-old pastries when I was a broke student, who had trusted me with his life's work. And I thought about Dolores and Toby, who needed this job to pay for community college, and old Marcus, the mailman, a different Marcus, a much nicer one, who always got a free refill. If Fenwick got the building, all of it would vanish into a fog of ambition-scented candles. I looked at the brass machine, gleaming in the dark like it was waiting for me. Okay, I said out loud, feeling profoundly ridiculous. Let's talk. The machine, being a machine, said nothing. But the little pressure gauge ticked once, as if in acknowledgement. I want to state for the record that I tried to be responsible. My first thought was, I'll just brew myself some good luck. Simple. Victimless. I made an espresso, focused hard on the concept of good fortune coming to me and this cafe, and drank it. The good fortune arrived in the form of a health inspector who, for reasons I still don't understand, decided the universe wanted him to give us a perfect score and then proposed to his girlfriend on the spot in front of the pastry case. It was very sweet. It was also not, strictly speaking, useful for my Fenwick problem. The magic, I was learning, had a mind of its own. It didn't take orders so much as suggestions, and it interpreted those suggestions the way a mischievous genie might, technically correct, emotionally chaotic. My second attempt was more targeted. Fenwick had mentioned putting in an offer soon. If I could just make her forget, or get distracted, or fall in love with a different building. I brewed a cortado at midnight, whispering, "Let Cassandra Fenwick find something better to want." The next day, Fenwick did not come in. This felt like victory until I saw the news. She had abruptly liquidated her firm and flown to Nepal to find herself. Her employees were laid off. One of them, a nice guy named Petey, came into the cafe, literally crying. I bought Petey a muffin and felt like a monster. The magic didn't do what you wanted. It did what you said, and it did it with the enthusiasm of a very literal, slightly unhinged toddler. Beatrice had warned me. Be careful what you put your feelings into. I was beginning to understand that careful was doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Fenwick was gone, but the problem wasn't. Because it turned out the landlord, a company with a name like a law firm's sneeze, Halloran, and Voss, had already been planning to sell the whole block. Fenwick had just been the loudest of several vultures. I found this out from the landlord's representative, a tired-looking man named Gerald, who came by to assess the property. Gerald had the demeanor of someone who had given up on joy sometime around 2009. Lease is up at the end of the month, he said, not unkindly. Ownerships decided to sell. Nothing personal. You'll get 30 days' notice, all legal. He looked around at the mismatched chairs, the chalkboard menu in my terrible handwriting, the fairy lights I'd strung up because they made the place feel cozy. Something in his face softened, just a fraction. It's a nice spot. Sorry, kid. 30 days. 30 days to save the cafe that Mr. Nkemelu had built, that I'd somehow become responsible for, that had become, I realized with a lurch, the first thing in my adult life I actually gave a damn about. I could brew a solution. I knew I could. But every time I'd used the machine on other people, it had gone sideways. Fenwick in Nepal. Petey crying into a muffin. The CEO's ruined merger, which, for all I knew, had put hundreds of people out of work. I sat behind the counter after closing, the fairy lights buzzing softly, and I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I thought honestly about what I wanted. I didn't want to ruin anyone. I didn't want to fling Gerald across the world or make the landlord's company collapse. I just wanted to keep this small, imperfect, wonderful place alive. And I realized I'd been using the machine wrong the entire time. I'd been brewing at people, wishing things onto them. Every time, the magic had lashed out because I'd been fueling it with resentment and fear. But Dolores, the heart in the foam, the perfect day, that had come from something else entirely. Here's what I did, and I need you to understand, it was equal parts genius and desperation. I didn't try to attack the landlord. Instead, I invited the whole neighborhood. I brewed a single enormous batch of coffee, every drop of it made with the most stubborn, defiant love I could summon. I thought about Mr. Nkemelu and his day-old pastries. I thought about Dolores and her grandson. I thought about Toby's tuition and Petey's muffin and the health inspector's proposal and the way the morning light came through the front window and hit the espresso machine like it was something holy. I thought, I want this place to matter to people. I want them to remember why they love it. I want everyone who drinks this to feel, just for a moment, exactly how much this little cafe means. And then I did something no rational person would do. I put up flyers. I hosted a community appreciation morning. Free coffee for the whole block. I called Dolores and asked her to spread the word. I texted every regular I had. The morning of the event, I brewed until my arms ached. Cup after cup after cup, each one carrying the same fierce, hopeful feeling. And I gave it to everyone. The commuters, the mail carrier, Petey, who came back, Gerald, who stopped by, just to check on things, and stayed for 3 hours. Dolores and her grandson, a shy teenager who ordered a hot chocolate, and grinned when I drew a dragon in the foam. The nail salon ladies, the bank tellers, 100 people, maybe more. And here's what the magic did, because it was, at its heart, just an amplifier of whatever you poured into it. It didn't strike anyone down. It didn't fling anyone to Nepal. It made people remember. I watched it happen. I watched a woman who'd been coming here for a decade suddenly turn to a stranger and say, "You know, my late husband and I had our first date here." I watched Gerald pull out his phone and, half embarrassed, start typing something. I watched the neighborhood realize, all at once, in a warm collective wave, that this scruffy little cafe was not just a business. It was a place, one of the few left in a city that paved over its heart a little more every year. By noon, someone had started a petition. By 2, there was a hashtag, "Trying Save the Daily Grind." By 4, a local reporter had shown up, drawn by the crowd, and drunk a cortado, and gotten, I could see it in her eyes, invested. The story ran that evening. The little cafe the whole neighborhood is fighting for. It went, by Fairhaven standards, viral. Gerald came back the next morning. He looked, for the first time, almost cheerful. "You caused quite a stir," he said. "I made some coffee," I said. "People did the rest." He set a folder on the counter. Ownership got about 400 emails, and a call from the city councilwoman, who apparently gets her chai here. And, this is the part I like, a very serious offer from a preservation trust that wants to keep the building as is, with the cafe intact, as a community heritage site. He tapped the folder. They're offering more than the developers were. Turns out, charm has a market value after all. I stared at him. "You're joking." "I don't joke," said Gerald, in the tone of a man who had recently rediscovered joking and was terrified of it. "But I do drink very good coffee." He paused. "That cortado yesterday. It was... I called my daughter. Hadn't talked to her in a while." He cleared his throat aggressively. "Anyway, the lease is renewed. 10 years. Ownership wanted me to tell you they're delighted to support local business, which is corporate for, we don't want the bad press." I made him a coffee. I put nothing magical in it. It didn't need it. He drank it and left with the ghost of a smile, and I turned to the brass espresso machine and, for the first time, felt something like gratitude toward it. "Thanks," I said. The pressure gauge ticked. I chose to believe it was saying, "You're welcome." Feet. The cafe is still here. It's been 8 months. Toby's back, still communicating in shrugs, but now he's a shrug that owns 2 aprons. Dolores comes in every day with her grandson, who has decided he wants to be a barista and is learning, badly, to make foam dragons. Petey works the afternoon shift and cries much less frequently. The reporter got a raise and still stops by. Gerald and his daughter are, I'm told, working on it. I've made peace with the machine. I don't use it for anything big anymore. No more wishes, no more schemes. I learned my lesson. The magic gives you exactly what you put in. So mostly I put in ordinary things. Care, attention, the genuine hope that whoever's drinking will have a slightly better day. Sometimes I catch new customers watching the steam curl up from the brass, and for just a second, it forms a shape, a heart, a little sun. Once, memorably, a duck, and they blink and shake their heads and decide they imagined it. I know how they feel. Beatrice came back last week. She ordered a flat white and watched me pull it with narrowed, knowing eyes. You figured it out, she said. Figured what out? It's not about controlling it. She sipped her coffee and made a small, satisfied sound. It's about deserving it. Then she left a $20 tip and disappeared into the river of commuters, and I never saw her again. I still don't know exactly how the machine works, or why Mr. Nakamelu left it to me, or whether enchanted is really different from cursed. But I know this. Every morning I unlock the door of my scruffy, beloved, ridiculous little cafe, and I flip on the brass La Pavone from 1961, and I think a nice thought, just in case. The universe, after all, has a sense of humor. So, as it turns out, do I.